In what ways does your opening sequence use, develop or challenge forms and conventions of a real opening sequence to a thriller film? In preparation to making our thriller, we looked into the forms and conventions of typical thriller films. We found that these usually included a high amount of suspense and tension, excitement, cliffhangers, and sometimes a near-death situation. Our thriller conveys forms and conventions through our main protagonist, played by Will Foster, and through mise-en-scène to the audience. One of the characteristics of a thriller mentioned earlier is to engage the audience through suspense and tension. In our thriller, our camera shots focus on our main character in order to make the audience notice his body language and the environment that he is in. We have used a range of camera shots in order to do this. For example, we have used extreme close-up shots of our main character's face, as well as other shots from wider angles such as mid shots and wide shots in order to show his body language. These shots make the audience question our main character's intentions. Therefore, they may want to find out what he is walking to or what he is worried about while sleeping. This, in turn, builds suspense and tension, fitting with a typical form and convention of a thriller. One film that influenced our thriller, the 2010 crime film The Veteran, uses a very similar series of camera shots that focused on one main protagonist in order to build tension and suspense. We have tried to base our thriller sequence and the type of shots we have used on the opening of The Veteran, as we feel it builds tension and suspense very well. We have not challenged any clear forms and conventions of a thriller, as we feel our film should be obviously shown as being from the thriller genre. Who would be the audience for your media product? We feel that our target audience for our thriller film will be young adults aged 15 and onwards. This is mainly because our thriller film is a 15 BBFC rating, therefore some scenes may not be suitable for an audience that is aged below 15. We think that specifically our thriller would be aimed at people aged from 17 to 25. We think this because our thriller incorporates a psychological side, therefore it may not be suitable for people aged 15 and 16, despite being in the 15 certification. However, according to BBFC guidelines, an 18 classified film would consist of very strong violence, including strong blood and gore, which our film does not include. This therefore shows that our thriller would come under the 15 classification. Another way of identifying our target audience was to use the youth research website UK Tribes. By using UK Tribes, we have identified that our thriller film would be aimed at indie scenesters. This is because indie scenesters will opt out from mainstream beliefs and interests. Our thriller will aim to be shown at smaller, more unique film festivals such as the Edinburgh Film Festival and the Raindance Film Festival. This fits the subculture of indie scenesters, as they are more likely to visit smaller, more unique cinemas and film screenings than go to more mainstream cinemas such as Odeon, Cineworld and IMAX. Also, indie scenesters would fit towards our target audience because they would like to be ahead of the crowd, therefore showing our thriller film at smaller film festivals and individual cinemas would fit in with our target audience. Looking back at your preliminary tasks, what do you feel you have learnt in the progression from it to your finished thriller sequence? Since our preliminary task, we have learnt a lot about how different types of mise-en-scène, camera shots and music can affect a film from the thriller genre. In our actual thriller sequence, we took into account many different types of things to do with mise-en-scène than our preliminary piece. For example, in our preliminary task, we did not think that a wide range of camera shots would affect the authenticity of our film, whereas the use of different camera shots along with specific editing techniques will result in a quality, professional finish in our actual thriller. Another thing that we have learned is that a thriller subgenre depends entirely on the target audience. We had to take this into account when creating our thriller sequence so that we could fit the correct subgenre of our thriller to our target audience.
How does your thriller represent particular social groups? The main actor is suffering from flashbacks from his past. He was involved in the army, so this is similar to experience shared from most of the ex-army personnel. But the main protagonist was pushed over the edge and was unable to hold back his underlying anger. We have also portrayed the young generation in the start of our media production as sly, deceiving and mischievous. This fits the stereotypical impression youths between the age of 15 to 25 portray to the older generation. They would see the actor as a typical hoodie, which would trigger the thought of crime occurring in the film, which has which has links with the violence and alcohol abuse. Also, the idea of these actions generally being done in built-up urban areas such as towns and cities. We would not have found this in typical rural areas. However, some shrubbery may be present, as the outskirts of the town or city is where the majority of younger people in the stereotype would be able to afford to live. These would have some bushes in such low and medium wealth areas, which I try to portray by not focusing away from the main actor. Such things as broken glass across the floor would help with this impression. This fits the typical forms and conventions of society which the film is trying to create. Overall, I think social groups we represent are indie scenesters and goths. We believe our film represents the goth social group, as our film involves psychological themes and thriller is typically a dark motive. As with our target audience, we researched this using UK tribes.
What kind of media institution might distribute your thriller and why? As we are aiming our thriller at the social group of indie scenesters mainly, we feel that our thriller will need to be distributed to smaller, less mainstream media institutions, as mentioned earlier. For example, we feel that it should be distributed to smaller film festivals which will show the latest films that are also small films, and they're not high-budget Hollywood blockbusters. If we do this, we feel we will be advertising our thriller to a more specific niche market. According to UK tribes, indie scenesters will want to be ahead of the mainstream beliefs, and therefore our thriller would be best distributed to these smaller film festivals. We do not think that our film will be distributed to mainstream cinemas such as Odeon, Cineworld and IMAX. This is because our target audience will be less likely to visit these mainstream cinemas, as they want to see new things and do not want to be seen to be following the crowd. What have you learnt about technologies from the process of constructing this product? When it came to the production of our thriller, we decided to use our own equipment that we felt was better quality and would result in a higher quality finish. Instead of using the college film cameras, which are Canon Legira, we instead used a Nikon D3100. Using this camera allowed us not only to have better filming quality, but also the advantage of having manual focus. An editing technique that we found to be very beneficial to our production was colour correction on Premiere Pro. We could saturate the footage and give it a more cinematic feel, which is very aesthetically pleasing. How did you attract or address your audience? We researched our target audience on a social tribe website called UK Tribes. We found out our target audiences was indie scenesters. We have addressed our audience with the type of film we have decided to make, which was a gritty action thriller with psychological themes, which these social groups should easily be able to relate to. We have decided to rate the film a 15 certificate, as we have used moderate violence and will continue to use violence through our film. We intend to use strong language and intimidating behaviour throughout our film also. This is why we have decided to rate it a 15. Also, our target audience ranges from 17 to 25, so we thought it wouldn't be appropriate to make the film an age rating of 18, as this would limit our target audience. We have also decided to aim our media production at small film festivals and social networking sites, as we believe this is where our target audience is most likely to be able to watch and view the film, and where it will be most easily accessible. We have also addressed our audience through our opening sequence, as they can relate to familiar actions and conventions such as using bus travel and drinking alcohol.